So why does the world hate Jesus and this religion? It's because of Jesus himself. He was the problem. He was the object of hatred, this Prince of Peace. They hated him. Why? Because he wasn't satisfied with being just another teacher of religion or another prophet with a message from God or even another leader trying to free his people from the dominance of Rome. What he was what he claimed to be, and what he claimed to be was to have such a close relationship with God that his followers worshiped him as God. Very truly I tell you, he says, before Abraham was born, I am. That's John 8:58. And I and the Father are one, Jesus says. Jesus claimed that he was more than just another way to God. He claimed that he was God, the only God, the one true God, the one way to God. In simpler terms, Jesus said, I am God. Period. And he called his disciples to that same kind of exclusive claim that he made. And what I mean by exclusive claim is that Jesus is saying he is God, therefore everything Jesus says is right, and there is only one way to follow and live to be right with God. That in itself confronts people to listen, but it also confronts those who are listening to other voices than God's voice, and that makes the world angry. In other words, Jesus called his disciples and us out of the world. You know what gets you hated? Radical living and speaking gets that kind of reaction. Radical living and speaking that says God's way of truth and virtue is the only way. And then saying that you are the truth by which all must live and be judged. And Jesus claimed this, and then he cranked up the requirements for all of us who need to follow him. In the Sermon on the Mount, you hear all that. You have heard it said, but now I say this. You have heard it said, you can't murder, but I'm telling you, you can't even hate someone. You have heard it said that you shouldn't divorce, but I'm telling you, you can't even look at someone with lust in their eyes. Jesus claimed his divinity and called all to live in God's way, truth, and virtue. Every other way is sin, and it got him hated by the world. But if we are to believe that Jesus is God too, then we are called to that same standard of living out of the world. If we are not using the Bible and the teachings of Jesus as the lens in which we view everything we do and every decision we make, we may be susceptible to listening to other voices other than God's. You see, we want everybody to like us. We don't want to be hated. But Jesus indicates here that if everybody is liking us, this could maybe be a sign that we belong to the world instead of to God. His disciples, Jesus says, do not belong to the world. And this is true because we know the first generation of Christian followers, they suffered terrible persecution, which is proof that they belong to Jesus. But it makes us all ask the question, though, of us today, is that maybe a little bit of persecution and anger coming our way is actually maybe a sign that we are following the way that is counter to the world. When Jesus says that you must pick up your cross and follow him, the cross is not the symbol of new life and renewal that it is for us today. When Jesus said those words, it was a symbol of nothing but painful death, meaning you must be prepared to suffer for Jesus, emotionally, the death of your own sinful self, but also personally, the world persecuting you or being angry or having hatred towards you. The disciples, they knew it too. They were willing, as Peter was a short time after Jesus' death and resurrection, to claim that there is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given among mortals by which we must be saved than Jesus. Acts 4:12. You see, that's the kind of exclusive claim, the kind of thing that gets you hated by the world. Because the world, you see, thinks that it has all the answers to save you from the troubles that exist. But these claims of Jesus say that He is God and His way is the only way out of the troubles. For example, the world we live in believes in tolerance as its highest virtue. Live and let live, we say, and peace will be your life. But what does that say then about Jesus' claim on us? Are we just another of many religions? Are we just another truth or another way to God? Is God's truth real truth? Are we just one of the crowd of many other truths that are out there? I hope not. Because if we are the same type of crowd that Jesus speaks about in the passage from John. If we fail to proclaim Jesus as who He said He was and who He really is, and who we claimed as churches He was for thousands of years, if we fail to do this, that He is our Lord, that He is our God, and we need to place Him and His truth first in all that we do and all that we live by, a standard that is counter to us, our world, and calls us out of our world. If we aren't doing this, Jesus is going to be looking upon our failure to proclaim His lordship in our lives by ignoring us. Glory be to the Lord our God, Jesus the Christ.